Hey there.
Yo.
Yo.
Hmm.
Welcome. That was a weird intro. Welcome. It was like half the energy and then like weird energy. Hey,
I
welcome to Don't
know,
Worry
man.
Wednesday. You know, we're happy to be here. This is my favorite activity of the week, really. I love being here. It's great. Thank you for joining us on Don't Worry Wednesday. This is the show where we talk about just issues, problems that you're going through in life. We're not here to go the road alone. We're here to help each other. I think the more that we do that, the better our lives tend to be. The more that we help each other and the more that we are helped, we allow others to help us, the better life goes. And so, well, that's what we're here to do. We aren't professional psychologists or psychiatrists or anything along those lines, but we can attempt to give you some wisdom from our own lives, share some experiences, some perspectives, and attempt to be, friends that walk by your side. um, a lot of times, you guys know how to solve your own problems. Let's be honest. But having that little bit of encouragement or having a little bit of a different perspective can really go a long way in moving you forward. So hopefully we can at least, at the very minimum, do that. So yeah. If you want to submit a topic to us at any time, please go to don'tworrywednesday.com. Just like the name of the show, don'tworrywednesday.com. Simple enough. Simple enough. Yep. .com. Wait, no, that's not ours, Joe. We can't.
You have to sing it.
We're not allowed to sing. We're not allowed. It's copyright, man.
Oh.
Yeah.
Copyright schmoppyright. We get a compulsory license.
Oh. Okay. Solves that. Can we get it after we do it, or is that void?
I don't know. We
Can
have
we
to
get it
release
into
it
the
through
past?
certain channels and make sure everything legally is set up right.
All right. Well, all right. I'll leave it to you and the legal team.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Yes.
So yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for being here with us. I see a lot of you in the chat. You guys are awesome. If at any point in time you want to share your own thoughts on these topics, please do. You're more than welcome to, and it really helps. Just everybody. So yeah, you'll get a rhyme from me later. Well, okay. Oh, I see. Because you said yo. It's Joe.
Yeah,
Fair
see,
enough.
Joe's easy. Ryan.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I got a bad name for you.
Brian rhymes with Ryan, but
yeah,
that's
just another name. Yeah,
you
could do a tie-in. It rhymes with Ryan.
Ooh, a tie-in to Ryan.
Yeah.
What are you tying to Ryan? Stop it.
Yeah. Tying Ryan. If you,
he doesn't need anything tied to him.
There's a couple of good ones.
Something to Ryan.
My brother used to say, "Ryan's crying."
Yes.
And Lion.
There you go. Say, don't start crying, because here's Ryan.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Kat. You're great. Aha. Yep. That's a little bit better than what my brother used to say.
Baka. Yes, don't bite a cherry like a grape. They have pits in them.
Yes, they do. Uh-huh. That's good advice.
Hurt your teeth.
Mm-hmm. Sure will. Yep.
Man, I'll never forget doing some cherry picking. It was so much fun. I used to live in Traverse City, right? And that's like cherry capital of the world, right? And everything. Yeah. And so like they have the cherry festival and they've got all these cherry orchards all over the place. And I'll never forget going and you just go pick them. You go and you buy yourself a bucket for like $5 and then you go fill the thing up. Right. And so we would go over there and like cherry trees are great because you can climb up in them and you can like stand on top of them almost. Cherry trees and apple trees are kind of like that. So like you can get really like far up there and like you can be standing on these horizontal branches and not be holding on to anything if you have balance. And yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and then you get to eat them.
You do.
That's the best part.
Fresh picked cherries are great.
Yeah, I bet.
It's really funny because they have the cherry festival there in Traverse City, but when the cherry festival is, the cherries are not ready to be picked yet. So all the cherries that are there for the cherry festival are like trucked in from Washington.
Oh, right. Nice. I have heard that. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
Uh, you
So,
don't bite through the seed?
yeah,
Oh man.
I think I don't think you bite through the seed.
Mm,
Nope.
you could try. It sounds like a good way to get a chipped tooth, but
Yeah.
they're pretty
Yeah, they're pretty dang hard.
they are pretty tough.
Wouldn't recommend it. I would avoid that at all costs.
Yeah.
So yeah, what do you say we jump on one of these topics here and start the show?
I think that's a great idea. Let's do it.
Cool. So we've got
I saw Moonlit here. Yeah, Moonlit's here.
Moonlit?
We got a topic from Moonlit.
Moonlit, hey! Awesome. Yeah, unfortunately we aren't all blessed with titanium jaw. That's right. Moonlit. Fantastic. Would you mind if we did yours? It's we titled it How to Spend Your Time. How to Spend My Time. You are here.
Yes.
Perfect.
You are not at all.
I am.
Does that mean you are not at all here? Or you asked, would you mind if we did your topic?
Yeah, and the response is not at all. Yeah. It's an accurate response. All right.
Yes.
So I'm going to go ahead and put the topic on the screen for you. Feel free to read along if you so desire. It reads as follows. This is from Moonlit. It says, I now have a lot of time on my hands since exams are over, for me at least. I have no idea how to spend it and would like to hear your thoughts. Moonlit. Fantastic. This is a good topic. I mean, sometimes in life, your journey is done, and you're like, what now? And so it's good to have like a basis of how to answer that question. Because if you don't have any way to answer that question, any beginnings of a search, or where to start searching, that could just stop you in your tracks and make you do nothing, and then just like, I don't know what to do, and then you don't do anything, and then that doesn't feel good. All of a sudden you wonder, are you depressed or something? It's not great. So, having some thoughts that help guide you down this road, probably pretty helpful. So I'm looking forward to see what Joe's got to say on it. I'm sure it's going to be great. So if you don't mind, Joe, would you take it away?
I will take it, and I'll run with it.
Oh no! Come back.
I'm gonna run away with it and give it back to you. There you go.
Oh, okay.
Back to you, Ryan.
All right. Well, thanks, Joe. That was good. Don't spend your time just giving it back to me. I mean, you gotta give it some effort,
Yes. It's interesting. Saule says, anything you want to learn or accomplish, summer break is a good time to try learning something cool that school doesn't teach you, or try things you can't do at school. And Kat has picked up reading, stopped by the library, looked in the kids section for some classroom library inspo. Yep, you can take a summer class like Baka is saying, and almost forget you have 3 assignments to do 1 week. Oof. I've been there before. Yeah, I mean, really, the sky's the limit. You can choose all kinds of stuff that you can do. Now, you probably are limited a little bit by your geography. So depending on what your climate is like, there may be, I don't know, summertime activities, wintertime activities, who knows? I think, is it true? Now, I'm curious. In Australia, where everything is opposite of us, do they have summer break for their schools? Do you know, Ryan?
I have no clue.
Like break? Okay.
Yeah. If someone in the chat is from Australia, please let us know. I have no idea how that works.
Because I know that summer break, there were a few reasons they had summer break. And it's kind of stuck. I mean, one, it's nice to have that break from school. The other
Especially
thing
the
is
best
that
months of the year.
Mhm. I mean, when all this public school stuff was getting started, a lot of people were farmers, and so summers off were good so kids could go work on the farm, with their parents because summertime is a busy farming time, right? And also, they did not have air conditioning in schools. They had ways to heat the schools, but, with no air conditioning, things would get pretty hot, and plus, it's kinda expensive to run air conditioning now. When you get to the Southwest United States, like Arizona and probably down in Florida too and everything like that, you gotta have air conditioning everywhere all the time,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Like, it just kinda is the way it is. But, I don't know, there's lots of stuff that you can do. I mean, personally, I'm an introvert, and so I like spending time by myself, and so I will go and just do stuff. And so like just today, it's really hot. It's like 90 plus degrees out today. And so I went and I conquered an island. I went kayaking and kayaked around a lake and found my island. It's
Mm-hmm.
mine.
Yeah, I told
You're
Joe earlier
welcome
he
to
needs to make a
visit
sign
it.
for it.
I
You're
do. Yep. And I had another friend, I um I sent a few messages out while I was out there and somebody said, "Where's your flag?" Like I conquered this island. They're like, "Where's the flag?" I'm like,
Yeah.
It's invisible."
Nice.
But I will say this, I'm going to charge the geese rent
For pooping
because
on your
they're
lawn.
pooping all over my island and they're laying their eggs all over my island. Like seriously, like there's eggs and goose poop all over the place, right? On this
I
on
mean, at least you
my
get
island.
residents.
That's true. But
Percentage-wise, you're one of the fastest growing islands in the world.
population, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. All these geese, man,
Yeah.
having babies and stuff. It's crazy. But, um but anyway, so, yeah, so that's just something I did today, and it was really easy to do. I have kayaks available and stuff, so I can, just throw it on top of my car, drive over there, and paddle around for a couple hours, then come back, take a nap, and get to work. And, and it's kinda nice that way. I also enjoy reading a lot. I read every day, every morning. I start my day with reading and journaling, and, so I definitely like to do that. Um, there's a lot of stuff you can do. Now, obviously, you can spend the summer entertaining yourself if you want. There's no real harm in, just taking that break and playing a bunch of video games, watching movies, doing whatever, right? Especially if it's hot and it's cool in your house and you can stay cool. I don't know. Some people like being out where it's hot. Like my ex-wife's dad loved being out in the heat. He grew up down south in Alabama and, so like in the
Mm,
summertime, he would just be outside all the time. He mowed his lawn like twice a day just so he could be outside. And like,
that's funny.
and he worked. I worked with him. He owned a business that was like he did a lot of construction type work and stuff like that. And I would work with him and he loved it when it was super hot and we would just be super sweaty and I'm just like dying. You're like, "Oh my gosh." And he's like, "This is great." And I'm like, "This is terrible."
That's great.
Like, what are we doing out here, man? It's so hot. He's like, "I know, it's great. I love it." And I'm like, "Okay, man, to each their own. I prefer winter, but that's just me." Um, yeah, so I mean, you can find parks. You can drive around, find a park, go for walks, maybe go for a bike ride, maybe go walk around. I don't know if you live in the city or out in the country. I mean, I live in the country, so I take walks in the woods. And I'll take drives and find new spots and just kind of explore and I do enjoy doing that quite a bit. But if you're in the city, I know there's all kinds of stuff to do in cities where, like the I was over with my buddy Steve, our company president. I was that whole weekend is a story in itself. Oh, you live in a city. All right. Cool. Well, when I met up with my buddy Steve, we had to go into the city to go grab some stuff from his workplace, and, when we pulled up to the building, there was one of these, food truck type things, just like and it was, like, Mexican food, it looked super good, we're like, "Oh, man," and so you can go around and see, different things. I don't know, there's a lot of times there's festivals and different events happening in the summertime, like, there are different things you can do. So, I guess it just kinda depends. Um, so Moonlit, you say you live in a city. Do you think you're more introverted or extroverted? Do you like being around people a lot, or do you prefer to not be around people? Um, in the city, it might be kinda tough to find places to be alone if you're not at home, because a lot of the festivals and everything, there's gonna be people around. But, um, I live near introvert kinda okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I live near mid-sized city. I live near Lansing, Michigan. And even if I go into Lansing, there are parks and places to go. I could go for a walk along the river, which is kind of gross sometimes because it's kind of polluted,
Mm-hmm.
but depending. But I don't know. I mean, those are the kinds of things I like to do when I have time and I don't have a whole lot of stuff to do. I like to go out and explore. I like to go out and find new places. I like to find parks and walk around and try and be one with nature. And I will even if it's just a small park with a few trees and just a little, grassy area or whatever, I could sit on a little bench and I can just look around and I can look at different trees and I can just get lost in the details of this tree. I can look at it and I can see, oh man, I watch how the bark forms around the tree and I see, oh, looks like it was damaged at one point in time and it overgrew, and there's like a big round bulb spot on the side of this tree or whatever, or where they've cut off branches and how the tree has kind of grown to heal around that and then seeing the different shapes of the branches. Sometimes you come across trees that have grown and there was an obstacle in place and so the tree has actually had to like curve around and then go up, and then at some point in time somebody removed the obstacle but the tree is still shaped that way,
Mm-hmm.
so it's kind of cool. It
Fun.
makes like a little bench for you to sit on,
Mm-hmm.
you know um But yeah, for me, I would encourage you to awaken a sense of wonder if you can, and a sense of exploration because and I guess it depends on how safe the area of your city is, but even in cities where they may not be super duper safe, a lot of times during the day or in the earlier parts of the day, you can go out and be just fine. I know that there are areas in Lansing where you do not wanna be after about 5 o'clock, because it gets crazy, right? I mean, even pizza places won't deliver there, cops won't go there,
Mm.
unless they absolutely have to. They definitely don't patrol there, though. But yeah, when I would do inspections and I would have, kind of a little bit of time to, take a little bit of a break, I would find a park. And I like water, so I would find a river or a lake or something, and I would just sit and look at the water and just try and calm my nerves and try and be at peace, which is not always easy to come by, depending on what things are happening in your life. Peace can be hard to come by, but in those moments when I'm with nature and around water or in the woods or wherever, it just to me, that's what I really like to do. So, I would recommend you don't have to do exactly what I do, but I definitely would recommend awakening the sense of wonder. Remember when we were kids, we all kind of had a sense of wonder
Oh
about
yeah.
things and about, like you'd see something new. And I never forget my youngest child, the first time. This is the best explanation I can see of a sense of wonder, right? Like we went to this pizza place for the first time. Well, his first time. We had been there before, but he was little and he was just starting to eat actual food, you know? And so he was trying all these new foods and everything. And like, I'll never forget when he took a breadstick and put some ranch dressing on it. And he took a bite. I was like, take a bite of this. And he took a bite and his eyes got so big and he was just like the wonder just awoke in this kid's face. And it was so amazing to see. It just made you smile, right? To see the wonder awaken at this new flavor that he had never had before, and he loved it. And so he didn't eat any more of the breadstick, but he would dip it in the ranch and just eat the ranch dressing because that's the part that he really liked, And so it just
I hate when they do that. It's so gross. Oh, all kids do it though. All kids do it. With like
Hey,
ketchup
but
on fries or barbecue sauce on chicken, whatever it is, they just
sure.
lick it right off and dip it back in. I'm like, oh, that's ruined. Not
Yep.
touching that.
Yep. Well, we gave him his own ranch on his
Yeah,
plate,
for
right?
sure.
So like but that sense of wonder, that sense of finding
Hmm.
something new, something that you haven't experienced before, or even if it's a place that you've been before, trying to find something new about it. And I don't know, I can just get lost for hours. I can get lost for hours sitting on a kayak in the middle of a lake and finding different islands and just getting cooked by the sun and it being super hot. And so then I have to but there's water all around me. So I can just grab some water up and just like splash it on my head. And then, it's nice and cool and whatever. But I don't know. There's all kinds of stuff that you can do. So I don't know. That's kind of what I wanted to start with. I'm going to turn it back over to Ryan and see what he has to say. Um, he and I have had, I don't know. I don't know if our upbringing was all that different from each other,
Maybe not.
but yeah.
No,
Anyway, I'm
different
looking forward
enough.
to hearing what he has to say.
Sure. Um, you know, it's a obviously there's gonna be so many different answers. Obviously there were some good answers in the chat already, and Joe gave a lot of really good answers as well. I'm not so into nature as he is, but it's still, I think nature is a beautiful thing, and I think maybe I've got a couple of suggestions of my own of something you might like. If you like video games, why not try getting into mods where you make your own modifications to video games? I remember that really was like a big, just like I went all out for that. I loved doing it when I discovered that it was possible. Just modifying code to change the way that the game works, starting to add my own stuff into the games. That was a lot of fun. And it was a process I had to learn. Another thing was with music, it's creative was just, I spent my summer learning how to play the piano really fast, um, by practicing over and over, just over and over and over running it, and learning how to just play super crazy fast, and that was a lot of fun for me, and so I'm gonna take this maybe in a weird direction, but I think it's important to get to the topic to help you answer it for yourself. I really like what Joe said. Wonder, foster that wonder in you, and I think that's really good. I think that's crucial to solving this question. For you, it's going to be whatever you find is brings you delight, brings you passion, and so, like I said, I'm going to bring this to a little bit of a weird place, but I'm going to call this love. Now, you can have a love for the world around you. You can have a love for the world around you. It might be called passion, but passion is just another form of love. And so when you have to discover what it is that that you enjoy, and that takes conquest. That takes an actual quest of you going out and learning, you going out and finding those things, and and it's a good thing to do it because your participation in those things, like Joe said, it's this admiration of beauty that's out there. Just enjoying that and taking it in. That admiration of the beauty around you, in the rivers and the streams and the trees and the birds and whatever is around you. That's like absorbing beauty into you, giving you that peace and that calm, and that might be something that gives you a passion. That's you loving the world and appreciating it for what it is, the beauty that it holds. And doing that's a very good thing. It's a very good thing for your soul. It's a good thing for your mind. It's good. It brings about good. When you admire the world around you, it turns you into a person who can admire the people around you and give them the goodness in you and give them beauty, right, from within. And I think that's really great and delightful. So even if it's something as simple as just going out and enjoying the scenery, you're creating within you someone that can find good in things. Mm-hmm. And that creates someone who can work through problems, can persevere, can talk to someone and find good in them and find the beauty in that person, right? These are good qualities, even from such a simple thing as just going out and enjoying the beauty around you that's in nature. If it's something like I suggested, like get into a little bit of coding. Like it doesn't have to be hard or intense. Just like find a game that you really enjoyed and start picking it apart. Look up tutorials online on how to get into that. That's great. It introduces into your mind the ability to problem solve and the ability to go through and learn how to enjoy math, which is weird enough, or to learn how to think in weird logical steps, or just be creative and give something out to the world and for other people to enjoy and alongside you. And that's great too. And if it's music, obviously it's the same sort of thing. Problem solving happens when you're rating music or trying to play music or whatever it is, and as well as making something that other people can enjoy, as well as you just enjoying it by yourself. So those are all really good things. And so what I would say is, if you don't know what to do with your time, order your time to something that's important to you. I think it's important to ask a question deep within. Because unless you're compelled to do something great, you're generally not doing anything. You're not generally going to do anything at all. Unless you're compelled to do something great, you're never really going to do anything great at all. And so what you need is to generate that wonder within you. Generate the reason for loving the world around you. The reason for investing in something. And that takes some reflecting on what's important to me. Why is that important to me? What's the nature of that activity or that thing? Mm-hmm. How does that then lead to my next possibilities of things I could be curious about? You might take a personality test and realize you click with a certain thing, and that sends you down a road and says, oh, that helps me find things that I enjoy. But I would say that's a really great way to get yourself introduced to new things that you enjoy or why you enjoy them. And so if you feel like maybe you could do that, try that. But otherwise, I'd say just if you could take a moment and just study yourself a little bit and say, what's important for me to do and why do I do these things? And for me, I think it's important to love. And I do things for love. I mean, for me, love is the whole reason why we're here. And love can be so many different things, right? And how I put my love forth into the world generates great things and drives me into the directions I am going in my life. And so for me, it's meditating upon that, contemplating it, and then and really trying to break it down. Like, okay, what does that mean then? What is the next step after I discover whatever that is? It's like, well, what are the things that are oriented towards it, and for me, I go through this with prayer, and a lot of time spent, like, could be a couple hours of your day. And the question is that difficult? It's like, yeah, especially for most people, yeah, that's difficult. But is it worth it? Absolutely. I mean, this is your life we're talking about. And this is the time that you're going to spend in your life. And if you're sitting here and you're uncertain of what to do with your time, then now would be a really good time to invest a little bit of time to figuring it out. Because even if that is hard to do, it's worth it, because what you do with your time matters. But if you don't make it matter, it won't. And that's that can be a hard lesson to learn. But what you do with your time matters. But if you don't make it matter to you, if you don't make it something that has any meaning, then the time that you spend won't have any meaning to you, and you're not going to feel very fulfilled with what you've decided to do. That's like when you sit there and you're on YouTube Shorts or whatever, and you scroll, or through TikTok or whatever, and you scroll for like 2.5 hours, and you get done and you're like, hey. Wow.
Wait, other people do that too?
Yeah, I think everybody's done that. And it's like you get to the end of it and you stop and you're like, that didn't feel very meaningful. That was a lot of time spent, and I don't remember very many things that I found from it that I thought were worth sharing. And the value that I got out of that was not very great, And so what I would say is, that's what happens when you don't decide you want to have a meaningful life, when you decide you don't want to live that time with meaning. Now, of course, it's great to sometimes just relax and absorb. It's great. Like, make time for that. Because if you make that time slot in your schedule for I'm going to just what's the word? I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to relax and just disconnect. Yeah. And I'm just going to do that for this time slot because there's meaning in doing that. When you do that, now all of a sudden doing that actually feels good. But if you're just wandering without direction and you find yourself doing something like that, yeah, you get out of it and you're like, yeah, that wasn't great. Let's try not to do that again. Because it's not very fulfilling. But sometimes you need that. Decompress. That's the word I was looking for. Sometimes you just need to decompress, and that's a great way to do it. Just kind of just zone out. Yeah. So sometimes we need to zone out, and you have to make that time in your life to do so. So I'm not condemning it. But my point is, if you're wandering through life without any meaning because you haven't decided what's meaningful yet, I think now is a better time than any to start deciding what's meaningful to you, so you can search the path that's the greatest meaning for you. And that is not a life that you will feel ever that you regretted. And it will be one that leads you down a path that will solve this question for you. What do I do with my time now that I'm free? It's like, you now know what's meaningful to you. You've got plenty. And that's a great feeling. It's a great feeling when you're doing something meaningful. So I think that's the best feeling. And that can even be going out and just enjoying the nature around you, because that is loving. And that's doing what the Creator's done. I mean, I don't know if you're religious, but Creator created the world and he said it was good. And he loved it. Yep. And he loved the world that he gave his only son. Yeah.
And he said that island was mine.
And he said, that island right there, that's Joe's. So that's Joe's island.
That's right. That's Joe's island.
So anyway, yeah, that is Joe's island, and that's what I got. Joe, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I love where you were going with that, Ryan, because it's true. When you think about meaning and purpose and what you want to do with your life, I mean, these are the times when we define that for ourselves. When we're busy and when we're stuck studying a ton and doing lots and lots of schoolwork, or studying for exams, or doing all the stuff that is work related, or we're working a job that just takes all of our time and energy. Excuse me. um, it's it's hard to even disconnect it long enough to figure out what's important because we're just like on the go all the time. We're in the grind and we're going, going,
Mhm.
going, 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 right? But, in these times when we don't have a whole lot to do and we have time to ourselves and we can think, this is when we figure this stuff out about ourselves. My brother, he graduated, he got his undergraduate degree. And after he graduated, he went up to the UP of Michigan, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and he just decided, he just wanted to spend some time up there. He had some friends that he went to college with up there and, that grew up there. And so he went to visit them and, hang out for a little while. And he just took a couple weeks and he spent some time in that area. And that set up the rest of his life. That one trip when he didn't have anything to do except for, relax. He just graduated. He wasn't sure what he wanted to do, and he went and spent some time with some friends. He got his degree in, I think, biology or something like that, but he didn't really know what he wanted to do. And um he went up there and, hung out with some friends, and they went out and hiked around, and he went through the forests, and he just absolutely fell in love with that area. And so he went he went and got his master's degree up in that area, up at Michigan Tech in forestry, and he became a forester. And
So
he's had lots of different jobs. What's that?
so he fell in love with the trees so much that he said, "I'm gonna cut you up."
Exactly right.
Sorry, go
Because
on.
there is responsible forest management.
Yeah, there is. I'm think so. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, the forest, if you just let it go, a lot of times it can get kind of gnarly, right?
That's true.
Depending on what type of trees you have there, and so like for him, it became this, way of he would always go through and very selectively choose which ones
Mm.
to cut. So he would go through and, walk through this person's property. They had, 40 acres or 160 acres or whatever, and he'd just walk through it, cruise it, and he'd be like, "Okay, yep, this one needs to go, this one needs to go," and he based it upon, all these things that's going to make the forest be more healthy as a whole,
Mm.
right? And so he learned all that stuff,
That's really cool.
in getting his master's degree, and so that's what he would do. And he did that for a long time. He worked for the state of Michigan, and then he started his own forestry business, and then he partnered up with a buddy, and they were doing forestry and logging. And then now he owns a fuel distribution company, but it's still up in that area, right? And he drives all around.
Yeah.
In that he fell in love with living up there, and yeah, it set up the rest of his life. This time when he wasn't sure what to do, and he was kind of bored, and he just took a little trip, visited some friends, and that experience, because of what he learned about himself and what he really enjoyed and decided what kind of life he wanted to live, what kind of purpose he wanted to have, that set up uh his adulthood. And so don't be afraid of the time when you're bored,
Mm-hmm.
because when we're bored, we learn about ourselves. When
Mm-hmm.
we're bored, we experience things. And you know, I know that if you're going through something difficult emotionally, being bored can be really hard on you, but it can also give you resolve, and it can give you, oh boy, it can help you discover what's important. Some of these things I'm very thankful that I have my therapist, because when I have times when I'm not having a lot to do, my mind can really play some games with me. And so I need to understand how to direct my mind toward a more purposeful and a more um like a more productive way of doing things, because otherwise my brain can just like spiral downward into this funk, and it can be awful. But that's also times when you're purging some of these emotions. You're purging some of the bad stuff that was in there, some of the negative stuff, and purging some of the attachments that you've had. You can get rid of this kind of stuff when you're sitting there and contemplating, and then also in my case having the direction of my therapist to really help me kind of, you know, point me in the right direction, so I just wasn't down in the swill all the time. But that time of boredom can be very cleansing. It can be very revealing about who you are, the type of person you are, and what kind of stuff makes you tick. So don't be afraid of it. And if you're looking for stuff to do, you can take any of the suggestions that Ryan and I had. You've probably got a lot of stuff all around you. I mean, if you live in a city, then there's stuff to do, I'm sure, all over the place. And it's just a matter of going and finding it. And it doesn't always have to be expensive. It doesn't always have to cost money. Like I said, I just go to parks and walk. And, I happen to have a kayak available, so I do that and whatever, So there's there's stuff you can do that's not expensive. You don't have to spend a whole bunch of money. Or if you really want to, if you want money, you can go try and find a job. Go find a job, start a live stream, start a YouTube channel, start whatever, like learn an instrument. There's lots of things, but don't be afraid of boredom, because you will learn about yourself, and you will learn how to connect with others as you learn more about yourself. So it's pretty cool. But anyway, that's all I had to say.
Yeah,
So
I really like that.
back to
I
you, Ryan.
think that's great. And embrace the boredom is something that we've said in the show before, and I really agree with that. I think I was blessed to, against my will, learn to embrace the boredom from a very young age. Probably maybe too early. Like like the age of like 2. Because I was in a very oppressive situation. But that's nevertheless. I just remember being super bored over summer vacations sometimes, and absolutely loving it. Just being so thankful that I was bored rather than having to go to school and work. Which is a weird thing. I get it. Maybe that's not the right attitude, but to me, I loved that. And I realized that my personality is phlegmatic, so I recognize most people would never love boredom like I do. But the thing is, I just see the benefits of it. And one of the things is, I mean, what's the why do I never remember names? What's the name of the guy who created Macintosh, Apple, and all that?
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs said he would never give his kids an iPhone or an iPad or whatever. And when interviewed, they asked him, "Would you?" And he said no. And they said, "Why?" He said, "Well, because boredom is important, and that device right there prevents boredom. That's all it does. And boredom is how you create great things. You need to go through that process of just not having anything to think about, so that you can find something to think about, so you can create new things that haven't been thought about yet, because no one else is thinking, because they're all just digesting everything that's being thrown at them." So I think that's I'm not necessarily going to put Steve Jobs in the position where I think that he's a wise man that to be followed, but I will say that those are words of wisdom, at least, and there's a lot of truth to that. So don't run away from boredom if it strikes you, and you haven't figured out, like, hey, I don't have anything meaningful on my plate. Hey, being bored could be something that is quite meaningful. Can get you moving in a direction that's worth more than just entertainment, just entertaining yourself. So, yeah, great topic. Yeah. So, with that, thank you so much for the topic. We appreciate it. Very helpful. Very good. Also for my own introspection as well. So I think that's great. So thanks, Moonlit. Appreciate it. And we hope that that's helpful. I know there's quite a few suggestions. I don't know if any of them met your fancy, but yeah, I hope so. You can let us know. Yeah. All right, I'm just going to mark this one as answered.
Market.
531.
Marketplace.
Market. Darn it. I didn't mark it place. I just marked it the date.
Oh, gotcha. Good job.
Next time. All right. Well, one and done. No, okay, we'll do more than that. One and done, guys. See you later. Hope you had a lovely Don't Worry Wednesday. No, we'll do another one. At least. So we've got a couple here. We've got 1, 2, 3. So 6 from Hatsu. Hatsu isn't here today. But we do have one, a recent one that came in about an hour ago, from Strawberry Paste. You think you want to do that one, Joe?
Sure.
Okay. I think this is a good one to do. Why not?
Why not?
So I'm going to go ahead and throw that up on this. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put it up on the screen. I want to throw it up because that, people get grossed out by that. People see throw up and then they get nauseous. So,
that's true, they do.
Yeah.
We don't want to create nausea.
Certainly don't.
We'll do our best. We'll do
our best to not nauseate you. That's a statement. Okay, that's a pretty low statement. All right. So, this is from Strawberry Paste, and it reads as follows. Oh, sorry, the title is Disturbed by My Own Mind. All right. Disturbed by my own mind. Have you ever seen or heard something and thought it to be cool or nice or attractive? Then thought about it for just half a second to realize that should not be something that I think of as attractive or cool or nice. Something bad, really bad. I encounter this more often than I'd like to admit. I don't want to give any examples because they're all, disturbing. The worst part is that even after realizing that it is bad and should be disturbing, these things often are still attractive to me. I do my best to avoid acting on that attraction. I only fail to avoid acting on it with the less dangerous things. But I'd prefer not to be attracted to these bad things at all. Not sure what to do about it. From Strawberry Paste. Hey, you know what? First off, props for coming to us and admitting such things. I think that's really great. This is very relatable, probably to everyone here, and so I give you props for admitting it, because that's actually something all of us, almost all of us at least, go through, but we don't ever really talk about. And so I think this is a great time to talk about it. I remember this question being asked to me from, I think I was like, it was a good many years ago. I was at my my friend's wedding, and it was the bridegroom's party, so all of us boys were together. There's no alcohol or anything involved. It was pretty chill. We were all just playing games and stuff, and like card games and so on. And one of them brought up, he was like, he was a little bit more of a philosophical person, just talking about stuff, and he had brought up this very same topic, and he was very shocked to hear our response was like, oh yeah, that's pretty normal. I think everyone experiences that. And he was like, No, but mine are like this. Like, hold on. And then you tell us something and we're like, yeah, that's pretty relatable. And then you'd be like, no, that
Mhm.
was just like a really weak one. Hold on, let me tell you like a severe one so you can be creeped out, please. And we're like, nah, man. Like, yeah, sure, that's a bit wild. Sure, I mean, but that's like, it's human nature. Our mind does these things. I don't know if it's necessarily human nature, but it's something within us. And but yeah, these things happen. So don't worry too much about your mind or your soul. Or your sanity, and that you don't do most of them. That's great. You only do happen to do them if they're not too dangerous. Hey, that's all right. So yeah, I think there's a lot to say on this, and I'm gonna just give it over to Joe and see what he's got.
Yeah, this is very relatable. I am the same way. Man, some things are downright wrong.
Oh yeah.
You know, ideas scampers across my head. I'd like to stomp on that guy's head.
Just like, I wonder what that would feel like. Oof, no thanks. No, that one not me. Don't want to feel that.
I mean,
But yeah,
they're not all violent, right? Like, I
right.
don't have super violent tendency, but like seriously, like we all this is I think a normal part of things. Now, you've said you're not sure what to do about it. Strawberry paste. And I don't know if I have a hugely good answer to get those things to stop because I still experience that. I still experience, all kinds of ideas of like, this would be a thing, this would be a good thing, this would be a bad thing. Some things would be a good thing, but not right now.
Hmm.
Maybe the timing is wrong, or maybe, so like there comes a point when we have to discipline our minds a little bit and we have to just say to ourselves, okay, that is absolutely off the table, right? I had the idea. I acknowledge that I have the idea. Okay, but that's totally wrong and disturbing. And so I'm not going to do that for sure. But sometimes we can get ideas in our head and they don't go away.
Mm-hmm.
I am like the king of that. Well, maybe I'm not the king of that.
No, you're the king of
I'd probably
the
show up.
island of Joe. Joe's Island.
Yes, I'm the king of Joe's Island. I got one. But like, and maybe this is a struggle that everybody has, but it doesn't seem like it from the outside. Um, I can focus really, really hard on stuff to the point where it's no longer a focus, it's more of a fixation. You know the difference? Like, focus has a productive element to it, right? Like, this
Mm-hmm.
is a productive thing, right? A fixation is more of like a problem. Like, I'm fixated on this thing and I cannot
Can't
get
even
it
help
out of
it.
my head. And right, like, I'm just like, I cannot stop thinking about it. It just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And some of those things I've had to talk to my therapist about and go through, some steps of how to not be fixated on them or to look at them from a different perspective. Because really, our perspective on the world is our world.
Mm-hmm.
The world is out there and other people are out there and they're all around us. Like we exist in this place and around these people. But reality for us is our perspective on that. And the more we can embrace the reality of how things are without some kind of um oh geez, I totally lost
Lens.
my train of thought. The more we can just look at reality in a neutral sense, it seems like the better we can be, because what I will do is I will see something in reality, and then I'll be like, "Oh my gosh, well if this is this way, then that means this, and this." And I'll go down this whole train of stuff until I end up at this result where I'm in total despair or something, right? And so my brain will take me on this journey from actual reality, what's happening, and and then it'll go to this point where my perspective is all skewed and wrong, and I'll be looking at things really, really weirdly, and it can be damaging, because then I can embrace that in my mind and think that that's reality, and then when reality itself clashes with my perception of reality, something called cognitive dissonance happens, which is when your idea of the world doesn't match up with the way the world actually is. And that can mess you up.
Your brain doesn't like that.
Yep. And so then you've got a whole bunch of extra work to do. And the whole problem was that my perspective was a cartoon world, as there's an author, I forget his name, but he wrote a book called Walking Through Anger. And he talked about the cartoon worlds that we set up in our brains, about how, this is how we perceive the world, and it's not necessarily matching up with reality. But the more we embrace the cartoon world and dismiss actual reality, the more problems we have, the more emotional we get, the more angry we can become, all this stuff, right? And so the more we can just kind of sit back and be like, okay, here's the truth of the situation. Now, Strawberry Paste, here's the truth. You had a thought. And thoughts come to every one of us. And yeah, and intrusive thoughts. Exactly, Kat. They will intrude our mind, and they can take hold of us, and they can get us running in all kinds of weird directions, and they can get us to do all kinds of weird stuff and say all kinds of weird things, and it's crazy. But the truth is, you had a thought. And yeah, that thought might have been disturbing. I've had lots and lots of disturbing thoughts. But here's the thing. Can I stop myself from getting fixated on that thought? The answer is yes. Sometimes it's easier than others. Sometimes I spend way too much time in the cartoon world, and then the cognitive dissonance that results is that much more painful, because I have spent so much more time in the cartoon world and thinking a reality into existence that actually wasn't there. The reality is this situation, right? Situation X. And then, but because of my perception and because of if situation X is true, then this other thing must also be true, which means this other thing must 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 be true. And before I know it, I've gone down, and in any one of those little breaks, any little tiny hiccup just takes me that much farther away from reality. And it'll mess with me. And then it'll take me a lot longer to come back, the longer I've spent in that cartoon world. Does that make sense at all? Am I making sense? Right. Thank you,
yes.
Ryan. So, but our brains are powerful. Absolutely powerful. And yours is no exception. You have a very, very powerful mind. And the question is, what kind of thoughts do you feed? So we have thoughts that are true and right and good and beneficial and productive, right? We have these kinds of thoughts. And then we have also thoughts that are destructive and maybe disturbing and maybe, painful and maybe they cause us stress and strain and heartache and anger. Like we have all these different kinds of thoughts. So the question is, which ones are you allowing yourself to entertain? Because in the end, it is a choice. Now, just because it's a choice doesn't mean it's an easy one. And it doesn't mean that we can't get swept away by our thoughts, because we absolutely can. It's not as easy sometimes as just flipping a switch. Now, true, that is a choice. We have a choice of what types of thoughts to entertain. But we also are compelled in certain directions by things that happen around us, by things that happened to us before, by, things that, you know, maybe experiences that we've had that are traumatic, whatever, we're compelled. And, I hear this term being triggered. Sometimes we're triggered by things because of traumatic things that we've experienced or negative things that we've experienced, and these things can trigger us, and then we can end up in a real funk. It can be really bad. So this isn't your fault. It's not your fault that you find these thoughts in your head. It isn't your fault that you have disturbing thoughts coming to you. It's not. This is just normal human experience. But sometimes things in our past, sometimes different things people have said to us, sometimes, whatever, excuse me, it can cause us to be pulled in a non-productive thought direction, I guess I could to say it really lightly and easily, right? It's not easy. So, how do we stop it? Well, when you're able to catch yourself, because sometimes we can go down this path of thought before we even know what's happening, and we end up in this thought situation where we're like, "Oh my gosh, now I'm angry and I'm upset and I'm about to cry." And, and that's when we catch ourselves and we'll be like, "This is all just a train of thought that I've been on for the last hour or two. And now here I am." And it's like, once you catch yourself, now is the time. Okay, now you realize you have a choice once you catch it. And then at that point in time, remind yourself that you have a choice. I can choose to stay here, or I can choose to start feeding myself something else, to feed my brain something else. And sometimes I've had to do multiple things. Sometimes I'll have to put on a movie and just focus there and totally take my mind off it. Or maybe read a book, or maybe listen to an audio. And sometimes I I just talked in the last topic about going out into nature. Sometimes that's the worst thing I can do, because then I'm alone with my thoughts in nature. And I will try to focus on the things that are around me, but really I'm sitting there alone with my thoughts. And sometimes that's harder. But here's the thing. You are realizing, just from reading your topic, I know you are realizing you do have a choice. Because you've said, you avoid acting on the attraction, only fail to avoid acting on it with the less dangerous things, right? But you do realize with the more dangerous things that you have a choice. You do not have to act. and you don't have to continue entertaining that thought. And in those times, sometimes I need to talk to a friend. Sometimes I need to message a friend or call a friend or something and just talk to them about stuff that's going on in their life. You know? One of the best ways that we can get ourselves out of this train of thought, because really it's a problem of us of being self-focused a lot of times as well. And if I can call up a friend and ask them what's going on in their life, and yes, you absolutely are a friend, Kat. Thank you. You're awesome. Um,
Mm-hmm.
um, if I can focus on them, and if I can focus on, you know, getting to know what's going on with them, and then if they have something going on, I can if there's a way that I can support them in any way, that's one of the best ways to get yourself out of that mental gobbledygook and into something good, because what you're doing now is you're going to a friend, you're side by side with them, and you're helping them. And that can be one of the most glorious feelings, because one, it takes you outside of yourself, and it takes you outside of your own thoughts. So that's step one, to kind of get out of your own head. And then when you're helping someone else, that'll bring you more good feelings than anything else I've experienced.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I feel the best. When I'm helping somebody else, I feel the best. I talked about going to Steve's this past weekend. We pulled an all-nighter.
Really? Oh my gosh. That's
We
nuts.
pulled an all-nighter.
Oh, you guys are so nuts.
I was helping, I went to go help my best friend. You know? His house is having some issues. And so we pulled an all-nighter, and we hauled like 4,000 pounds worth of cement blocks and another
Downstairs.
1,000 pounds worth of sand and mortar, and we did concrete work. And we came upstairs. It was all being done in his basement, and we were like, we came upstairs and the sun's out, and we're like, dude, we pulled an all-nighter. And Steve looks at me, he's like, dude, I think I'm getting too old to be pulling all-nighters. I'm like, dude, we didn't just pull an all-nighter. We pulled an all-nighter doing concrete work, which is like some of the hardest work.
That's crazy.
Heavy and dirty and oh, it's crazy. And yeah, so like I couldn't believe it. I couldn't, I had drank a bunch of coffee and whatever,
Yeah, I guess.
we were keeping ourselves going.
Wow.
But holy cow, yeah. But anyway, I felt really, really good because I was helping my friend. And he told me, he's like, I don't think there's anybody that's a friend like you are, Joe, because like you come when it's the hardest, most terrible thing to do. You come and help. Like most friends avoid that time, and they'll come when it's like, hey, I'm going to put up some trim, or whatever, whatever. And he's like, but you come when it's the hardest and nastiest and heaviest stuff. And I'm like, I was just thinking about how much that would really suck to do on your own.
Yeah.
And how much I would want to have help. And we bonded, right? We had a bonding experience, and I helped my friend. And even though I hurt really bad the next day, for the next 2 days, I felt really, really good about what I had done. So if you can, as you're having these thoughts, when you start to realize you have a choice, understand, oh, I have a choice. Now, how do I get myself to make a better choice? Reach out to a friend. See if there's something you can help with. That, to me, is like one of the best antidotes for disturbing negative thoughts, is when you can reach out to a friend and help them with something. Absolutely. 29 is too old. I didn't say I was too old to be pulling all-nighters. That's what Steve said.
Yeah, that's right.
And he's 34. So.
Oh, wow. He's a lot older than you.
He passed me.
He passed you. Sure did. About how many years ago did he pass you?
I don't know. I stopped keeping track after the first one.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, he passed me 5 years ago. Because he's 34 and I'm 29, right?
So, yeah, I guess that's right.
Anyway, that's all. I'm gonna turn it over to Ryan. I've already talked for quite a while, so.
Yeah, no, that was really great, Joe. Appreciate that. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I have a lot to add, but it's mostly just breakdown of the things that you were saying. You know, one thing I have to say right off the bat is, again, great topic. And there's some good comments here in the chat to relate and to, just state their own experiences with this, and I think that's great. So first off, demons. Let's talk about demons for a second. I'm gonna kid. I'm actually, demons, a lot of you guys don't believe are real, so I'm just going to say stuff right now and say it's your mind, and you can make the connection later if you ever feel like you want to go deeper. But first off, what Joe was saying was really, really great. So if you're looking for how to solve this, how to not give in to the bad stuff, love ends all evils. So when you go out and you do a loving act for someone, you're programming your brain, first off, to discard the things that are evil, the things that are bad, the things that will be bad for others around you, right? Because you're practicing that love. You're practicing that action of goodness. And that creates within you a person that does good things and staves off bad things. Secondly, Joe was talking about this very briefly, but I'm going to hit it up maybe in a slightly different direction, but the same thing. What are you feeding yourself? Because what you feed yourself is the images you see, all right? The images you see, the words you hear, the songs you listen to, the shows you watch, right? Those can be tools against you. Because at any moment, those things can reappear in your mind and address themselves in your brain and say, what do I do with this? When you're dreaming, your brain is trying to, a lot of times, come up with just different images and say, what do I do with these things? And you end up dreaming some weird chaos. But when you're awake, those things don't stop. Those thoughts don't just disappear. When you're awake, your brain still has to figure out and juggle the images it's seen. And those images play back to you at random points in time, sometimes at the worst moments. At your lowest lows. And let me tell you, when you're at your lows, that's the time where it's easiest to just disregard your loyalty to goodness and health and betray yourself and betray the persons that you love and do these bad things, right? So if you're looking to avoid doing bad things, do what they call avoid the near occasion of sin. Now, I'm not going to expect you to know I'm not going to expect you to believe that there is sin, because I don't know your religion, but regardless, the idea still stands true. Avoid those things which you notice lead you into doing bad things that you regret. Avoid those things which cause you to fall here, cause you to lose the battle at these points, right? It might be overtiredness, you know? At some points, sometimes maybe you get overtired and you feel yourself your mind isn't completely with it. Your subconscious mind is kind of just doing its thing, and all of a sudden images start popping into your head and you don't have your wits about you to stave it off. So overtiredness can really be against you. So that can be it. Or maybe it's just you spend some time watching TV shows or animes that give you certain ideas or images that replay in your head. And they might replay in different scenarios, so you wouldn't even notice that they're the same. But they're the same. And so, your brain has to juggle those, and you got to deal with them. And if you're feeding your brain that's going to be a tough thing to juggle, because those things stack up. The more you feed your brain something like that, the more it starts to accept that as the normal. And the more that it starts to accept that as the normal, the more likely you're going to fail when it comes to staving off things that you recognize yourself are hideous actions or unattractive, they're not nice or cool, or, basically they're disturbed, right? So hopefully that's right off the bat some helpful things to think about. What are you feeding your mind? What can you do away with? How can you live a life where you're noticing the times that you fail? What are those times? What led up to those times? What led up to those times? What were you doing? What were you thinking about? What was your state of mind? Were you overtired? Were you just out drinking that night? Were you around a group of friends that talk about these things? What is it that led you into those positions? Then, to your best of abilities, avoid the near occasion of sin. Let's avoid those things. But if you can, one up that. Dispense an overwhelming amount of love into that subject, even if that love means to criticize it and condemn it. Even if that love means to go out and help a friend, like Joe said. Because that will compel you, that will move you in the direction to recognize, yes, this is unattractive. Because what you train your mind on is how your brain is going to perceive the world. I love what Joe was talking about, perception. A line that I say is, how you see the world is how you're going to feel living inside of it. So if you think the world is crap, you're going to feel like crap. But it goes much farther than that, right? Because, again, what you give to your mind to digest on the daily is your mind is going to start thinking that's the norm. It's going to start thinking these things are okay to do, or okay to think. They're not as ugly as you thought they were in the past. And so to remove yourself from those things is beneficial at the very least. And it might mean giving up your favorite kind of movies. And at some point in time, you're going to be thanking yourself that you gave those up, because at some point in time, you're going to recognize that those are purely disturbed, and you really do believe that they're disturbed, and you knew they were disturbed, and then you're like, you know what? I don't like them anymore. They weren't good for my health. They weren't good for my brain thinking. And you know what? They were not good for society. They're not good for my social encounters. They're not good for my interior life and the way that my brain thinks. And now I don't even care about them. They're just unattractive. They're not cool, right? They're not nice. And so if you, again, I said all that with this notion of, I believe there are demons. And demons are all part of that. And that's why we don't put the blame on you. but recognize you do have control over your life and what you digest, what you ingest, what you feed yourself on the daily. And if you can watch that and you decide you're going to intentionally desire good things that you do align with, that you find, yes, these are attractive, these are cool, these are nice things. And you decide, I'm going to digest these things more now. And I'm going to start parting ways from those things that aren't. You'll find yourself being more ordered towards those things and finding these disturbed things more and more unattractive. That's just how the brain works. That's just how things are going to happen. And so, if you have a fixation, like Joe was talking about, you get away from that fixation by not continuing to digest it on your daily, or your weekly, or whatever it is that you might be, and you might not even know what it is. And some of these things might come from your past. I mean, I hate to say it on the show because it's a sensitive topic, but that at times we're abused as people. And that abuse can turn into thoughts that stick around, and they make you think things, and eventually they have outbursts. But if that's the case, if you can figure out, oh, that's the source of this thought, if that's the source of this weird picture in my brain, then you need to get that solved. You need to insert love into that area of your life. And I know that's not easy, but you need to get that solved so that you don't live a life that's simply you're a product of your environment. And your environment just was bad. And so, you're guiltless, but you certainly weren't great. You're guiltless, but you certainly did a lot of evil. Right? That's not a good excuse, right? It's like if you die and you're like, yeah, I did some bad things, but it's not my fault because that was kind of just the things that happened to me led me down that path. It's like, yeah, that's true. But would you have rather done great things and not all those bad things? If your answer is yes right now, then that's something maybe you should go see a therapist about. Maybe that's something you should investigate. And maybe that's worth it to you to stop watching certain movies or certain shows. Maybe that's worth it to you to avoid the good things, the good nuggets of certain types of media, because you know that it's mostly bad nuggets. Or it's only a few bad nuggets, but it's mostly good. That might be the case too. And you might want to avoid something good so that you can achieve something great. Right? Sometimes that's the choice you have to make in life. Sometimes you have to make those sacrifices. Sacrifices are when you give up something good for something great. Something sacred, something beautiful, something important. And so sometimes that's what we got to do. I don't know if that's your case. I don't know if that's what you're going through. I don't know if any of these relate to you. But I'm guessing they do. I'm guessing in some way they do. Because that's how our brains work. For the most part. And that's how demons like to work. So, there's a really great song about this. It's a power metal song, so I'm not going to say that you're going to like it. But it's called Gone to the Wall by Twilightning. Twilightning, Gone to the Wall. And it's just a fantastic song. It's really pumped up, and it's about this topic, about being confronted with something, and you know that it's not so great. Link the metal. All right. Someone can link it in chat. Lightning, Gone to the Wall. Actually, I think I can get it for you if you want. I think I might actually have it open on a tab. I'll get it for you real quick. I might have closed it earlier today. Yeah, I closed it earlier today. Sorry. Nope, don't have it for you. But anyhow, working on it. Awesome. Is that the right one? Let me look at it. Sawale. Thanks for doing that. Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah. So, I mean, here's the thing. They aren't an English-speaking group, so you're gonna have to look up the lyrics so that you can read along, because you are not going to understand what he's saying. You're gonna be like, "That was English?" Yeah, it was. It was. Trust me.
Wait, you said they're not in English. Oh, he's
speaking English.
It
doesn't sound
okay.
Does not sound English.
Sound like it though.
No.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, anyways, no, I encourage you to read along with the lyrics. Strawberry Paste. Even if it's not necessarily your type of music, it brings out into the open the reality of the problem. It brings out into the full open just the reality of the problem, and that we have to face it, and that we have to choose to. It's a fantastic song, and it's one of my favorite songs of all time. But anyways, I encourage you to listen to that. I feel like I would encourage you to listen. If you like it, I encourage you to listen to it and read the lyrics along with it daily. That way, you have a little bit of melody in your head to go, "Oh, I know what this is. I know what this thought is. Let's face it. Let's not go to the wall. Let's not make the whole week feel like crap. You know, just because I decided to give in to this temptation." Right? Yeah, that's right, Kat. It's all of this song. So, anyways, those are my thoughts. I hope that they're helpful. I know I said a lot of what Joe was saying, just kind of breaking it down in a different way. But yeah, Joe, did you have anything you wanted to add after that?
Not really. I think you handled it really, really well. And I basically said all I needed to say in the first part.
Yeah.
So
great. Awesome.
Yeah. Strawberry Paste, you are not abnormal.
Yeah.
You are not abnormal for having this happen. This is a normal thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what Ryan was talking about, the things that we put into our head can affect our thought processes, our trains of thought, all these kinds of different things.
They can
be
weaponized against us.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Even if it's just us weaponizing them against us.
We do a good enough job ourselves a lot of times that we don't need help from any demons, but they're happy to help.
Oh, certainly.
Right? but you know, like, just, I mean, Ryan did some talking about demons, and they, you know, I believe they exist as well, but I also believe that we do enough to ourselves that, you know, some people are like, "Oh, it's just demons around." No, it's really just yourself.
Yeah, that's
right?
true too.
Sometimes that's just the case,
yep.
right? So it's okay. You are not a freak. You are not abnormal. This happens to people. And so it's just a matter of learning how to work with yourself, reminding yourself you have a choice, and choosing different options as what you're doing and what you're ingesting mentally. Right?
Yep. Absolutely. And yeah. And if you go out into the world and practice, you know, being the person that you want to be, it will help order your mind such that those things that are disturbed become unattractive to you. The more that you order your mind towards what you believe should be attractive, and you pursue those things with love and passion, the more those disturbed thoughts will look unattractive, and thus help you get away from them. So anyways, thank you so much for this topic, Strawberry Paste. This is a great one. Thank you for allowing us to talk on it. Thank you for bringing it up. Thank you for having the courage to do so. And we really appreciate you. And we hope that this was helpful. If nothing else, know that you're not alone in that battle. You're with the rest of us in the world. So we appreciate that you brought it up and that you gave us the chance to talk. Awesome. Well, we're doing good, making good time.
We are.
Yeah.
We've kind of got a topic running in the chat
Perfect.
right
And I
now.
was about to
Remember
ask
we
you
used
about
to do
that.
this show?
Yeah.
Remember we used to do this show and everything used to come through the chat before we had topics submitted on our website and all this
That's
kind of
right.
stuff. You know? So we've got and Kat, thank you. You have been so helpful here because I'm like Ryan's sitting there talking about his topic. I'm trying to answer some of this stuff in the chat and I'm just like I'm seeing so many similarities to like my my marriage and like this relationship that ended for Wenzo. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like uh
Yeah. I was about to
we'll see
ask
what
you.
happens."
I was about to.
We totally could talk about this.
I think we
And
should. I was about to ask you. I was like, "Hey Joe, I saw there was something going on in the chat. Do we have a topic?" So, yeah.
I think we do.
I guess I'll let you discern how you want to present the topic. I'll give it a something on the board from Snaz.
Okay. So Wenzo, thank you for reaching out. Thank you for joining us and reaching out. I applaud you.
Yeah, thank you.
It's not easy to talk about this stuff, and especially like as it starts to unfold in the chat as I'm seeing it happen, and I'm seeing some of the things that come up, especially the thing about, like, he started to get toxic over me and my friends. That one, when you mentioned that in the chat, that brought me back to like the earliest days of the relationship I had with my ex. Now, that situation, there was narcissism involved and a lot of mental and emotional abuse, and this is kind of where it started. Where 6 months into the relationship, I was dismantling my friendships. I broke up with my band. I wasn't gonna speak to him anymore. I dismantled my friendships because, and this was all kind of this environment that she had created around me, and it was all there to isolate me. So then I was alone, right? So then she had me all to herself and I was alone. And then once I had nobody outside to reach out to, then the real hooks could get in and the real mess could start happening. So, I know that breakups are hard. I know. Breakups are hard for everybody. And I'm thankful. I mean, I guess I don't know for sure, but I imagine you don't have children together. But that to me was the most heartbreaking part of the divorce I went through was what happened with my kids and seeing what they had to go through and just all the pain that they didn't ask for that they all of a sudden got thrust upon them. But this was the right thing to do. It needed to happen because it was just totally, it was wrong and it was abusive and I was totally under I, I was under this spell for years and years and years and years and years. And so you're in a better position not being in this relationship, even though right now, because the breakup is fresh, it really hurts. Because now, and it's crazy. So, oh man, I don't even know where to start because I could just go on and on and on and on and on, and then y'all be my therapist.
We need a therapist on the show at some
And,
point. I think we
and
actually should get someone.
well, it's
It
funny.
would be
My
great.
therapist wants to work with me.
Oh yeah,
Like
I know
she's
she
like,
does. But
but we
she's like,
can't.
we gotta get your situation figured out first, so that she can start coming and doing work with us.
Right, exactly.
So
Because
that you're
well,
not
she
a
wants to do
client.
podcasts. She's got books that are unpublished that she wants to publish and all these kinds of
Mhm.
different stuff. And I'm like, hey, we can totally do that. But she's like, yeah, but I can't work with you while I'm working with you as a patient,
Yeah.
right? Because so you have to heal first in order to get to
She's
that
like,
point, right?
she's like got motivation to make sure you get better.
Right. So we go through the inventories, the depression and the anxiety inventories, and I can see the discouragement when, like the
Mm.
numbers are not what she wants
Yeah,
them to
just
be.
you're hurting my career here, Joe. Get better. I don't need your stinking money. Let me stop coming to me.
Right.
That's great.
Excuse me. So, Wenzo, I love you, and I'm so sorry you're having to deal with this. Oh my gosh. And if you want to reach out to me on Discord, you absolutely can. My Discord name is pleb6992. I can put it in the chat here. 6992. I feel free to direct message me. So yes, made so many mistakes and I hate making it. So basically what's happening, and Wenzo, please correct me if I'm wrong. But Wenzo had a French boyfriend that broke up with them, and it was a toxic relationship. Thought that the French boyfriend loved them. And what if love was fake all the time? How will I choose someone in the future? There's so many things, and it's a whirlwind of stuff. And man, um, and right now you're just kind of sitting in the pain, and it hurts. And I know how much that hurts. And I went through probably when I finally started to get when I finally started to realize what was happening, or what had been happening for years and years and years. Um, and things started to unravel. It took about 6 months from when, I mean, I had always known something was off. I had known something was wrong for years, but I was just in it and I was devoted. I was committed. I was married and I was in it. And that was it. I was like, hey, I said I married her. That's it. And then I finally started to get a glimpse that there was something really, really wrong, and this wasn't good to be in. And it took about 6 months from then to the point where I filed for divorce. So and then it was all this pain started to come out from, I mean, I had been in a relationship with this person for almost 20 years at the time. At the time I started to come to learn this, from the time we started hanging out and like started to kind of date, 20 years. 20 years of this. And it all just started to come out, and it all just started to and I'm just sitting in this mess of emotion and hurt and confusion, and I didn't know what the right thing to do was, but I know I needed to get out, and I knew my kids were gonna get really hurt by it. And then because I knew about her nature, I knew she would use the situation to pit my kids against me, and there was all kinds of manipulation. All kinds. crazy stuff. I'm just sitting in this hurt. And sometimes I'm still sitting in it. And, I filed for divorce November of 21. Divorce was final October of 22, and now it's almost June of 23, and I'm still like working through some of these things, and I don't know what to tell you about how do you find love? How do you believe that love is real? How do you understand? And like anytime even the thought about a romantic situation in my life comes to me, I just shut it down because I'm like, I cannot even approach that right now. I don't even understand what it is. So now my therapist has me going through all kinds of like romancy books and stuff, like all these kinds of things that you're supposed to ask your potential mates and stuff like that. And I'm just like, I have to take it in really small doses or else I just get really frustrated and upset. Right. But Wenzo, you've said, sometimes I can't talk with my mom about my problems because I don't want to worry her. Yeah, that's totally fine. I couldn't open up with my parents about this either. Because one, they didn't understand narcissism. They didn't understand the abuse. They didn't see all the things that had happened. They also didn't understand all the possible ramifications of if I did a certain thing, the types of things that would get done in response by her would be more damaging than the things that I was doing. Right? And so there was all kinds of stuff. I could not talk to my parents about it. This was something that I had to confide in really close friends and especially my therapist. So it sounds to me, I don't know, Wenzo, how long was this relationship, if you don't mind me asking? Um, because I mean, even if it was a short relationship, if you were in this and there was this level of toxicity and possibly even manipulation and abuse, because like when you that red flag about the friends thing, like that my radar just goes off with that one. Um, for long, I think. Um, okay. Um, so I would consider seeing if you could talk to a professional to explain some of this stuff too. Because, man, there are just some things that I mean, I can't talk to my parents about some of this stuff. They'd be happy to listen, right? Like they're great people and they'd be happy to listen to me, but it's just like they don't understand. And sometimes we get in situations like this where we need somebody who will understand and who will see the red flags for what they are and will not downplay what we're feeling, because that's another thing that can happen when we confide in parents or relatives or close friends, because sometimes they can just take the look at the situation and without understanding all the depth of what might have been happening, they just see the surface level. They might downplay your emotions to some degree, and that's the wrong thing to do, because your emotions are real. Your feelings are real. You feel them. And it's okay to feel them. But to be able to unpack that and to not just have it dismissed as, oh, well, why are you feeling that way? That's dumb. You should be feeling like this, blah, 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 blah. Because that's a lot of times, people's response, what their response can be, especially if they haven't been through this type of situation, or if they haven't like helped somebody through this type of situation and seen the fallout that can happen emotionally and seen all the damage that can be done in someone's heart, over this kind of stuff, because they just don't understand. And to them it's cut and dry and simple, and it's just boom, whatever, right? But man, step one of this situation is probably the hardest. And that would be going no contact with this person. They've broken up with you. And that break needs to be a clean break, especially if some of these red flags that are popping up to me are actually there. Then it's very important that you not speak with this person. My therapist told me, you are not allowed to talk to your ex. I do not trust you with your ex. You have proven over the course of these past few handfuls of years that she can manipulate you. And so if you start talking about anything other than what's prescribed, and she was like, I need you to, if you're going to talk to her, you need to talk to your lawyer, have your lawyer talk to her lawyer, and have her lawyer talk to her. That needs to be like the communication you have. Because if you start talking to her and try and setting up all these kinds of cooperative things or whatever, make it easier, whatever, she's just going to run over you and manipulate you. That's absolutely true. That would have happened. So, man, before I get too far in the weeds about my own stuff, these are just examples of what I had to go through. And I see this being a similar type of situation, even though it might not have been for as long and, you weren't married and, maybe and whatever, right? That when you said that thing about the toxicity about your friends, that I was like, "Oh, isolation." They'll try and cut you off, like Kat said, cut you off from support. You know? And it's literally true. So, Wenzo, I would recommend if you can find a counselor, somebody you can talk to about this, who's a professional, even if it costs you some money, it would be worth it. Because if you've been with this person for a long time, there might be some things that have gotten that there might be a little bit of a mess in your brain and in your heart that needs to be cleaned up and needs to be rearranged and set into place before you're healthy again for another type of, romantic relationship. And who knows? I mean, my therapist has even said to me, she's like, maybe you'll never be ready for a romantic relationship again. Maybe that's absolutely true. But I want you to tell me that in order for me to agree to that with you, she's like, you need to say, yep, romance is just fine. Hey, I'm totally fine with romance in general, whatever, blah, 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 blah. But it's just not for me. I'm just, single. And she's like, when you can be at peace about it, that's when I'll know that it's real. But right now, I'm definitely not at peace about it. I can say that for sure. There's a lot to work through. And that's okay. Our hearts are complicated and our minds are complicated, and we gotta work through this stuff, right? So it's okay. You're gonna be okay. Wenzo, you are loved more than you may possibly know. And I'm talking about love, like real love. Because right now, I don't necessarily consider romantic love to be real love. I consider that to be like, I don't know, people being horny toads and stuff. Like, sorry, Ryan. But hey, it's fine. I have seen people have relationships that are successful. Ryan's brother, Kyle, and his wife Diana, they've got 7 kids. They've had a very successful marriage. They respect each other. They love each other. They are on the same page with each other. And, you know, they do good. My brother and his wife, they've got 3 kids. They love each other. My brother got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. They caught it early, and he's in remission. Like, they got rid of it all, which was amazing. Like, they had to do this major surgery to take out half his guts and rearrange all the plumbing in there and everything, do all kinds of hook stuff up that wasn't supposed to be hooked to other stuff, and, I mean, they rearranged a whole bunch of stuff in his belly when they took out, you know, the parts they had to take out. And then he did chemo for a while and radiation for a while after the surgery as well, and when he went in to get tested, there was no sign of any cancer anywhere, and so he made it through one of the most, I mean, pancreatic cancer is pretty deadly and pretty, tough, and most people don't make it, but he did because they caught it really early. And when I saw her response about him going through that and how she was there with him when he went through that and how she is so thankful for him being alive now, like, I'm going to start crying and I'm sorry, but I saw that and I was like, that's actual real. That connection is actually real there, you know? And they have a good relationship and they love each other very much. And you know, they have a life together. So, hey, romance it's got its place. Its place isn't for me right now, but that's okay. I'm going to turn it over to Ryan. I've talked long enough about all this stuff, but I'll tell you, Wenzo, you are loved. Just because you don't have a partner right now doesn't mean you're not loved. And sometimes we go through stuff and we have to relearn ourselves. We have to relearn that we are lovable. The situation you are in, the toxic situation you were in with your boyfriend, I can tell you where that will lead. If, you know, if the red flags I'm seeing from what you've said are true, you were destined for if you would have stayed in this relationship, you were destined for learning how to absolutely hate yourself. Because that person would have trained you over and over and over again of how unworthy you are and of how stupid you are and of how, you know, how much of a waste you are to the world and how unvaluable you are. That's what a relationship like that creates. And you learn how to hate yourself. You learn how to hate your own existence. And then you learn how to hate all of existence. And then you learn how to, you know, like, you just, none of it seems good when you go, when you're in that type of relationship. So, yeah, hopefully Ryan can bring us some hope. And I'm sorry. I love you, Wenzo. I love you. And yep, hey, you're the best. And hey, reach out to me on Discord if you want. If you're on Discord, I'd be happy to talk to you more. And sometimes it helps to have people that understand at all these at all the levels in this kind of stuff. So thank you for coming to the show, and thank you for putting this in the chat, and thank you for letting us talk about it. And hopefully it's helpful. So you're awesome. And now I'm turning it over to Ryan.
All right. Well,
for real though.
Joe, I'm happy for you to talk, and you can talk as long as you want on this topic. I mean, this is something you've been through, um, the deepest holes
Well, and
in.
continue to go.
Sure. And
Like,
I will say you haven't given yourself credit, but I will say Joe's come a long way from where he started from his divorce to where he is now. And so know that you can move forward. Joe's a good example of that. Even if he still feels like he's in it, and he is. He has come and he's moved along from one thing to the next to the next, and he's doing well at doing that. Because he's decided he's going to do that, and he's going to move forward, and he's been doing that. He's been moving forward. So he's a great example to the rest of us who go through things like this, who get attacked at the most intimate parts of our life. And that's the thing. This has to be, a relationship can be one of the most evil of evils. And it can be the most good of goods, right? It can be the most holy of holies, but it can be also the most evil of evils. Why? Because you make an agreement to make yourself vulnerable to someone. And they use that vulnerability to use you for their own pride, for their own glory, for their own self, right? And so this is a very real, horrible thing, Wenzo. And so don't feel like you're not justified in thinking that things went wrong for you. Don't feel like you're not justified in thinking that you were abused or whatever. You were. Right? Don't just take those and throw them away and say, yeah, that didn't happen. Not to say, I don't want you to play the card, of course, where you say, oh, that was just the cards I was dealt, and so here I am, and I'm going to be this way forever. It's not necessarily an excuse, right? You don't want to make your problems or troubles an excuse to not move anymore, to settle wherever you landed when the dice were thrown, because you don't deserve that. Just because they treated you that way, however they treated you, just because they might have treated you like a tool doesn't mean you are one. And so, as hard as it is, you do have to get up and start recognizing you're more than just a tool. You're more than just an object to be used. You're more than just a means to an end. Right? And so, however toxic this was, right? That's not who you are. However that relationship started, however that relationship went, however that relationship ended, that's not who you are. None of that is who you are. That's something you experienced. We all go through a lot of experiences in life. We got our own fair share of problems, and it's not equal. Some of us get the hard end of the stick. But
the hard and pointy end.
The hard and pointy end of a spear. But one of the things that we've learned is when you're tried and tested and you pull through, you come out a greater warrior on the other side, a stronger person. And that strength might be the endurance that you have fashioned into your ability to love, to see beyond the hullabaloo that other people can't, to see reality for what it is, and decide you're going to love anyways. You're going to do good things anyways. You're going to be the person that you wish you would have seen on the other side of that relationship. You're going to be a giving person. You're going to be a loving person, right? And you decide, you know what? Yeah, the world gave me crap. You know, this relationship gave me crap. Not nice, right? That's not going to shape who I'm going to be. I'm going to shape who I'm going to be as a good person, as a loving person, regardless of all this. And then when you do that, then we know you're real. Then we know you're real about being a good person, about being a loving person, about being the kind of person that's great. Because, you know, it's easy to pretend you can love and be a loving person when you haven't really faced all that much. But when you're thrown into a position where you're forced to, when you're thrown into a position where you try to love despite being thrown toxicity and toxicity and toxicity, and then when it's all done and over and you get that divorce and or breakup or whatever, it doesn't stop you. It doesn't shut you down from hoping that there's other people out there who can love like you, or who can be good like you, or have a good heart. It doesn't shut you down from wanting to be that person. That's amazing. And that isn't just a feat of amazement. That's not just a feat that is inspiring and awesome. That's really, really, really good. You have purified in your heart that which was evil. You've taken something evil within you and you've turned it, because of an experience, evil cast into you, onto you, and you've turned it into something pure, beautiful, lovely, because you've decided that you will. And so I encourage you to be that kind of person. I encourage you to be the kind of person, you know, Joe is aiming to be. You know, it's hard what was thrown. It's not his fault what he went through. It's not your fault what you went through. It's not. But to not lose hope in the goodness that you went in with, that's really important. You went in with all good intentions. You're a good person. You went in with the purest of intentions, I'm sure. Or if not the purest, at least not malicious. Just, you went in. And you thought it was going to be a good thing. Don't stop that. Don't shut that down just because someone was, like, bad to you. I understand, that's easier said than done, but still, you're still that good person. Regardless of whatever that person did or said to you, right? You're still that good person. Hoping for good. Wanting good from the world as you give it to the world. Don't lose hope in that. Don't let them destroy your good spirit. Why would you want to be like them? You don't. And you never will be. I know that. Because, I mean, you're here. Wanting to talk about it. Wanting to figure this out. You're here.
Mm-hmm.
It says a lot. It says a lot. And so, I'm just here to encourage you and say, you're doing the right thing. You're doing good things. Keep it up. You said, but the problem is that I'm always naive and kind with someone who hurted me. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's right. Just because someone can be hurt after doing something good to someone doesn't mean doing the good was bad. Doesn't mean doing the good thing was the wrong thing to do. I'll tell you this. Whether you decide to be a good person or a bad person, whether you decide to put up walls or to be vulnerable, the enemy's out there, and they're gonna get you. It's out there. It's gonna get you. So, all things being equal, would you rather be a good person or an evil person? Would you rather be naive and good, or all-knowing and evil? Not that knowing everything makes you evil. But my point is, just because you are naive doesn't say really much anything about you being bad. This is about you. Who are you going to be? I think this is a great lesson to, a great chance to learn and learn to not be naive. If you want to know about finding the right person, it's someone who you can be vulnerable with and who's clearly capable of being vulnerable with you. And when you are vulnerable with that person, they clearly show that they're going to love you without, what's the word?
Malicious intent.
Without requiring something of you.
Yes.
Without requiring something of you. If it seems that you're in a relationship and the way things are going, they're saying things that make you think, my love is conditional. Their love for me is conditional. I have to fulfill this thing or they're not happy. I have to do this for them or they're not happy. They're not, it's like, I'm going to give you an example that I experienced from my relationship, one of them. If I wasn't spending time with them, they would get upset with me, right? Maybe I was playing a game. I said, well, you'd rather play the game than spend time with me? That relationship didn't go well. Sure, that's a fair remark. That's a fair remark, right? It sounds legitimate, like, right? Sounds legitimate. It's like you would rather play a game than spend time with me. That sounds like a legitimate statement. Like, yeah, like, okay. Yeah, I guess I should prioritize you over a game. Yeah, right. That's fair. That's fair. That's true. I should. But that wasn't the issue. The issue was that they were unhappy because the way that they saw it in their brain was that they didn't feel loved because of something I chose, which had nothing to do with them. They wanted something of me, and the way that they reacted was they weren't going to be happy unless I did X. So if you find yourself in a relationship where they say something that rings with, I won't be happy until you blah, blah, blah. Because I could say, hey, I was just playing a game. Like, I wasn't thinking, first of all, I didn't even know you were available. So, well, you should have asked me. Oh, okay, sure. But the thing is, it's like, I needed some time to, just decompress, and, playing a game was my option. I looked at it and I was like, oh yeah, I haven't done that in a while. I'm going to do that. And their response is something like, well, you can't decompress around me. You can't, everything keeps on pointing back to them, back to them, back to them, back to them. It's never about you. If a relationship looks like that, if it's not about you, it's about them, it's not it.
Mm-hmm.
If their love is conditional upon their happiness with you in that moment, and they're not going to give you any love unless you make them happy, and you start to notice that it's all about them and not about you, well, that's not love in the first place. You know that. Love is what you do for another. Love is about the other. It's your gift to them. It's not a self-giving gift. It's not a requesting a gift, right? None of that. And you know that, Wenzo. You know that because you went into it with the right mind, right? When you went into your relationship, were you not thinking, I'm giving myself to them. I'm going to do these things for them. I'm going to try to make them feel joy. I'm going to try to make them feel loved. I'm going to do these things to pursue them and give them joy. Give them just maybe even give them consolation, just console them sometimes, or I'll be in it with them in the hard times. Even something like I'll give them security in the future, right? These are your thoughts. And that reflected upon the way that you spoke to them, the things that you said, the way that you comply to their requests. Right? Good things. So if you are encountering someone and you're looking, is this person loving me? Ask the basic questions. Well, are they doing things that are about them? And is everything about them? Or are they actually treating me with love? Are they willing to love me unconditionally? Do they see a fault and say, hey, I'm with you through that? Or do they see a fault and call you out on it and say, you need to change that? Or I'm not happy. Right? These are some things that you can take with you, all right? Into any of your friendships. It doesn't have to be a romantic one. These are your friendships too. This is just how it is. It's really obvious when you see it. Because it looks like love, not want. And part of that is figuring that out in your own heart.
Mm-hmm.
Wanting someone is very different from loving someone. Wanting someone is about you finding joy. Loving someone is about you giving joy. And being willing to do whatever that takes for that person, because your desire is for them and their journey. Your desire is for them and their joy. When you want someone, that's a different thing, right? I want them because I want to be happy. I want them because I think it's going to make me feel good. I want them because they say nice things to me. I want them. That's not love. And we know that. So if you can look within and you can separate want from love, you can look at the people around you and separate pretty easily after a few honest, like listen to them honestly. Listen to them honestly and say, do they rejoice over my joy? Or do they only rejoice over their own? That's a really good one to look at. Do they rejoice over my joy? Or do they really only rejoice over their own? Did they rejoice over my joy at first and then they started to not rejoice over my love, or over my joy at all? Like after a month? Or after a couple of weeks? Okay, they might have been playing you. Because I'll tell you what, they'll do that. And if they're playing you, then quit the game. You don't have to play that game. You can be a good person and quit that game and give your love to someone who will accept it. Don't cast pearls before swine. Right? They're not going to understand it. They have their own journey, learning to come to understand what that is. If they don't understand it, sorry, but you're not going to be the one to teach them because that's an inward lesson.
Yeah, it's absolutely true.
That is not a lesson that you show them what love is and then they finally understand. Right. It doesn't work that way. That's an inward battle. And so I hope that's helpful. Then Wenzo, did I sort of get around to answering your question there, your concerns, your feeling, your worries, I suppose. They give you some pro tips.
Pro tips.
Pro tip. Win, don't lose. No. Yeah, so There are good people out there who are willing and wanting to love, just like you. And no, it's not everybody. And it's not just going to be someone. It's going to be someone special. That makes it even harder. That applies to your friends too. They're special. In your life, those are like shooting stars. Keep them. Love them. Like you want to. Rejoice in their joys. And that should get you pretty far. And if you want to know if someone is playing you, just pay attention. Don't sugarcoat them just because you might be attracted to them.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, don't sugarcoat them just because you're attracted to them. Don't try to justify their actions. Just say, oh, maybe, it happens several times. Here's the thing. Someone who loves acts loving. Naturally. Someone who's only obsessed with themselves acts obsessed with themselves naturally. And both of them show their true colors in time. And it doesn't have to be a lot of time. Really doesn't.
Yep. And you have to have your eyes open enough to notice.
Yeah.
And not be a Twitter-pated horny toad.
Dang straight. I don't want any horny toads out there. It's our lesson of Don't Worry Wednesday today. Don't Worry Wednesday, horny toad edition. No, don't be one. All right.
Well, because that all can play into it, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, your eyes get clouded.
And we can get ourselves sucked in, and all that kind of stuff, right? And so it gets crazy.
Yep.
And yes, Meow, you're right. It does that is like the song Trap.
Yeah.
I remember when he first sent me that song when we were getting ready to release it, and I was like, oh yeah, this is like perfect.
Yeah. I knew you'd like it. I was like, yeah, this is gonna be right up Joe's alley. He's gonna love this.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. It was good.
So anyway, sorry I went over with that. But I hope that was useful. I sincerely hope you continue to be a loving person, because I know you went into that with the most sincere intentions, and you went through it with the most sincere intentions, and now you've come out on the other side. Don't let this ruin you, because you're worth fighting for. You're worth fighting for. You're worth that battle, and you're worth many more. And so I want you to keep growing, keep struggling through your thoughts, keep moving forward. Don't feel ashamed to see a therapist, and fight that battle, because you're worth it, and your love is worth it, and someone out there needs it, even if it's just a friend. They need your love, and they're worth you fighting that battle for. So fight.
I will tell you one thing, Wenzo. Here's something that I've learned. And sorry to cut you off, Ryan.
Yeah, no.
Did I totally interrupt you? Okay.
No, I was done.
Okay. I know that right now it hurts. I know that right now it hurts, and there's confusion, and there's pain, and it's a difficult time. But I don't know how to say this, so I hope I say it correctly. But your heart, having gone through this and being in the state that it is now, is so, so precious. Because your heart has been tenderized for those around you. And you can have more compassion now than you ever had before. You can have more empathy than you've ever had before, and I mean good empathy, not toxic empathy. But you will be able to connect with people's hearts quicker and deeper than you had the ability to before you went through this, before you being in this. And I know that it hurts right now, but that pain is very relatable because so many people are hurting
Mhm.
and they just don't talk about it. Nobody talks about it, right? That's why we want to help people talk about it here. But I've noticed that, when I talk to other people that are going through stuff and I've, been handed this crazy spot. And what I'm noticing is that my level of connection has deepened and quickened as a result. But I have to be able to get outside of my own head, like I was talking about in the last topic, right? You gotta be able to get outside your own head and focus on that other person. And that's another thing that's gonna help you get through this faster, and it's going to be like a balm, like a salve of it's gonna make things feel better when you find somebody who needs help with something and you're able to help them. And it doesn't have to be with a deep emotional thing. It could just be holding the door for somebody on the way into the gas station, and smiling at them. But when your heart has been broken, your smile is that much more sincere. When you look at someone, you can look at them with knowing and compassionate eyes. And you can love more purely and more deeply than you ever could before. It's so crazy to me that that's the case, but I know before I went through all of this, I didn't have this depth. I didn't have this, ability to connect like I do now. And it's incredible to me. But you going through these things, and we will all face painful moments throughout our lives. Some more painful than others, and sometimes we go through something that's super painful, and we hope that that's the last really painful one, and everything else will be a lot easier after that, and maybe that's the case. I don't know. But when our hearts get shattered, they're tender, and they're open, and they're compassionate. But we have to allow it. We can't let it harden our hearts. And it can be hard, but, we feel with others more after going through things like this, and especially when we're in the pain of it. So, Wenzo, you are precious. Your heart is precious. I know it hurts, and I know you'd like to just not feel this pain somehow. But in that pain, there's connection, there's connectability, there's compassion, there's love. And I'm sorry it's like that, but it is.
Mhm.
So there is value in a broken heart. It doesn't feel like it, but there is. And you can reflect it to those around you. You totally can. And just you coming to us and talking about this today, I see that. I see that you are a person who wants to give somebody a chance. You talked about the problem is I'm always naive and kind with someone who hurted me, but like it's okay to be kind. It's okay to love, but it's also okay to protect yourself.
Yes.
From abuse.
Absolutely. And protect the other person on the other side, because that's not good for them either. Abusing people.
Right. So anyway, I don't know. Hopefully some of that makes sense. And man, if I went overboard for all you guys listening, I am sorry.
You're great, Joe.
But
you're fine.
This came up, and I'm just like, whoa, man, like.
Yeah.
Something to handle for sure.
Yeah.
Love you too.
Yeah, we all love you, Joe. No, this is great. I mean, it's good that you're here for this because you can relate on a deep level, and I think that's important. I mean, it's very important. So, thank you, Joe. And thank you so much. You've been awesome, Wenzo. Thank you so much for interacting with us and responding to us, giving some of your thoughts. And, you know, don't let negativity win on you, right? Just keep on keeping on. And, be a loving person as you are. Don't be ashamed of that, so you're awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And thank you for letting us tackle this with you, and be a part of your journey. We're honored, even if we only play a small part in it. We're honored, so thank you. But yeah, we've gone 27 minutes over. So thank you,
27.
everybody.
27 is the magic number.
Oh, is it?
I think I will name my island number 27.
Well, I better shut this stream down fast before it becomes 28. That is not a magic number. We all know that. 28 is not a magic number. All right. I mean, clear in the fact that it's a 2 and an 8 together. It doesn't even equal 9. Shoot. It's 28. I'm sorry, man. I took too long to scratch.
Still island 27.
Okay, that's great. Still the magic number. It's 27. It's still the magic number, despite whether it's 28, I guess. So anyways, thank you so much, everybody, for the wonderful show. Thank you for your input and your help along the way. Thank you for letting us talk to you and being a part of our lives and letting us be a part of yours. We love you so much, and we really hope that you have lovely lives filled with great joy and wonder and greatness. So, yeah. Anything you want to add, Joe?
Do it.
Do it.
Come back next Wednesday. We'll be here. It'll be good.
That's right. If you have a topic you want to submit, go to don'tworrywednesday.com and submit a topic. Great.
Or come to the chat and submit it in the chat. We take them that way too.
Yep, that's right. All right. See you guys.
Awesome. Love you guys. You're amazing.
Indeed. Love y'all. Bye now. Peace.
I'm going to do both hands.
Oh.
Wave. Wave.
This button is not working. I'm just going to click transition.
Why does your button not work?
I don't know, man. See ya, guys.
Anxiety attack tip. Do something with your right hand and your left hand.
That's right.
Back and forth.
Are you having anxiety issues right now?
That's how you can...
Because I'm not ending the stream on time? I'm sorry, Joe. I'm so sorry. Guys, I'm going to end the stream. Bye now.